And yo, the Sports Bag Bros podcast is back stateside, at least half of us. And of course, even while I'm gone, the world continues to turn. And this world, it's the sports world that continues to turn. And Bias and I always try to decipher what's been going on in the world of sports. Coming off of another weekend, NCAA tournament seems to lead the way. But man, there's a whole lot more to go as well. What's up?
What's happening? Man, I had a great time watching basketball Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Not as much yesterday. I had something I had to do, but um, there was some good action.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it on Thursday how most of the so-called experts were saying, or I was probably talking about it at the bar with my friends, but they were saying this is the worst tournament for 11-5 matchups or 11-6 matchups and 12-5 matchups. Don't expect upsets. And wrong about that. Yeah. And of course, I'm hyped. NC State's still in it, baby. Sweet 16.
Bro, come on now, for real. I mean, you know what? I think we talked about this a few times, not even before the season started, when we were just talking about NIL, because football happened to be really the name of NIL, but with basketball involved, not even NIL, but even the transfer portal, how teams are instantly good that weren't good before, and things just change at the drop of a hat. And I talked about it, how, bro, this tournament moving forward with the environment we have now with all the transfers and even NIL, you're going to have more upsets because you look at what we talked about, Overtime Elite taking the great players, or other little entities overseas or other places taking these great players. And then what's left, well, they're having the college experience, trying to do as best they can, trying to get to the NBA if that's where it leads. So we're seeing all of this now. We're seeing these teams that probably would have never had a shot. Oakland? Come on, I just saw them 4 years ago when Braden Norris left them to go to Loyola freaking Illinois. And now they're out of it, and then freaking Oakland gets there and gets an upset.
Right. And they played well, but they ran into NC State.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get contributions from more than two guys. Goki and the big guy, forgive me, I can't remember his name. But he had NC State's players in foul trouble. He fouled out two guys, actually. But when you only get major contributions from two people, it's tough to it's tough to win in that situation.
But that's Oakland. Those are the teams that have maybe one or even two people who are just serviceable. It just happens to be in the tournament when other teams aren't familiar with you because they hadn't seen you or they haven't played against competition like you, and you're overachieving. Those things happen. That one player that does well, or those two players may do best. But when they play teams that are kind of used to seeing that kind of thing, well, you get what you get. But I don't think anybody expected North Carolina State and Clemson showing up for the ACC. We already expected Duke and North Carolina to do something, if nothing at all. But those two teams, those are the surprises.
Right. ACC is showing out, showing their talent.
Yeah, and they absolutely are showing their talent. And you look at the upsets. I mean, James Madison, was that really an upset? Is this one of those 5-12 matchups where the 12 is freaking, he actually is the favorite?
Yeah, that was odd, right? The lower seed was the favorite. Makes you wonder about the seedings.
Well, you look at James Madison. They went into this tournament with a record of 33-3. They only lost to two teams. They can't get over in their own conference, which is the Sun Belt. They couldn't get over Appalachian State twice. And then they lost to Southern Miss. But then they just went on this long winning streak, and everything culminated into them getting into the tournament, getting that first round win. And then, against Wisconsin, who I thought they would beat anyway, I think a lot of people thought the same thing. Obviously, Vegas did.
Yeah, sometimes some of those Big Ten programs, man, they run into certain teams that are terrible matchups for them. Yeah. Luckily for Purdue, like they were not messing around. I mean, they won by 28 and 39, I believe.
You know what? Purdue is one of those teams right now that's getting hot at the right time. I mean, you say what you want about Edey, man, when he's going out there, this dude's letting himself be known. I was like, yeah, this guy's a stiff. He's slow. He's not Jokic. But he has a high enough basketball IQ. He knows where to be to where his athleticism doesn't have to be everything. And the team is winning well with him, and they're dominating. They're not just winning. They're looking more impressive in terms of just overall domination. I know it's a different kind of team, than what UConn is doing, which is just consistently and methodically beating the hell out of you.
Yeah, and I mean that brings me to Jay Williams, because they were recapping the tournament, and they asked him about what he thought of Purdue, and he's like, "Well, they got the easiest bracket. All they did was handle their business." Then they asked him about Duke, and they came out and they punched James Madison in the face, and I was so impressed because usually if Duke gets punched in the face, it's a wrap. They don't punch you back, but they came out and they punched James Madison in the face, and I'm like, "Are you listening to yourself? They punched James Madison."
That's Homer all over it, man, though. You already know.
Come on, man. And they asked him about Houston. He's like, "Oh, it's 50-50. It's a toss-up." Man, that's why I got to stop watching TV, because those motherfuckers are hypocrites.
Yeah, well, you see, that's what it is when their true colors start showing out. They're supposed to be professional, not homers, but then they can't help themselves because we all know this isn't the same Duke team or quality of team that Coach K's gotten people used to for decades. This is John Shire's team, which is kind of like they're still trying to find an identity. I mean, Coach K's still on campus. It's not like he's just not the basketball coach, but he's still on campus. He still has influence for people coming in. Maybe he's the reason why they say yes to Duke, or for people that they're going to select, and he's the one pointing them out, and John Shire just going in that direction. That's what I'm thinking. Probably the reason Tommy Amaker, even though, the president vouched for him, Coach K said no to him, which was surprising, but not really surprising, because Tommy wouldn't have put up the nonsense. He would have tried to have his own identity, and he's having his own problems at Harvard now, but still.
Yeah, but it's tough to win at Harvard, but and I'm not trying to disparage Duke in any way. They did look good against James Madison.
No, they absolutely did.
But if you're going to say pump the brakes because Purdue didn't beat anybody, well, do the same for Duke. Keep the same energy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, now is James Madison no one because of they're in the Sun Belt, or they're no one because, well, they're just not there every year? I mean, 33-3, regardless of what conference you're coming from, you've played out of conference before. And if you only lost those 3 games to in-conference teams like Southern Mississippi and Appalachian State twice, that means whoever you did play on the outside, you were beating them too. So I think that going into the tournament, though, and I remember them, I think Charles Barkley was talking about how they go up and down the court and how they score over 80 points and so forth. They made it seem like, well, Wisconsin can do kind of the same thing. Well, we saw the difference. But, yeah, there is something to be said about what James Madison was able to do. They were a better team than people who don't follow them probably would have expected. But then Duke just absolutely dominated them, because this was one of those games. Yeah, I picked James Madison to beat Wisconsin, but I took James Madison outright to beat Duke. That was a big wrong one. Forget about it. Not even just trying to pick the upset. I thought their team, man for man, would be able to deal with it.
Well, I think the biggest thing for the higher seeds when facing lower seeds is to come out strong from the get-go. Let them know you're not going to have a chance, because the way they pull off upsets is they hang around. And then the favorite, they start getting tight. They make mistakes. They miss free throws. And that's how the upsets happen. Rarely does a lower seed blow out the higher seed, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's imperative. You come out strong. You send the message, hey, no upsets tonight, buddy. No upsets tonight. And that's what Duke did.
Easier said, but when you're one of these teams, especially an elitist team like a Duke, or even an NC with the pedigree they have, you just know when you're coming from high school, going into college, you're practically a 5-star or 4-star player. Everybody else wanted you. You just chose these perennial power teams. And then when you're playing the smaller schools always have something to choose, or something to fight for, something to prove. And then they also think about, well, this team didn't recruit me, so they have that chip on their shoulder attitude. They're going to come out with tenacity, and the elite teams know that, you know what, they can give us their best shot. On our worst day, they just keep it close in the first half, and we know completely about college basketball. It's all about the halftime adjustments. And in the second half of the game, you always see the difference. But sometimes those teams are good enough because they don't know enough about them, not to mention the age. Whereas you have a lot of these star players from these elite programs, they're playing for a year or maybe 2 at best. Whereas these other programs, they're 5th-year seniors, or with COVID around 6th, 7th-year seniors. So you just don't know.
Right.
Playing grown men who've been in the same system for 6 years, trying to get a doctorate in basketball.
Speaking of grown men, I believe North Carolina, they have almost the same age average as the OKC Thunder.
bro. I'm not surprised to throw all the younger teams in the league right now, aren't
is
they?
Carolina old or is OKC that young or is it both?
Man, if the OKC is that damn young, man, I'll tell you what, the OKC fans may be happy as hell because that future's bright and they still have pieces to
Definitely.
play when the draft comes along and free agency. But yeah, and this dude, Armando Baycock, have you watched him play? I've watched him since last year. For some reason, I don't think he's special. That's why he came back trying to get an opportunity at the NBA. But this year, he actually looks like he belongs in the NBA. Not a lottery pick, but at least in the NBA, get a shot.
And he brings his lunch pail and hard hat, man.
That's exactly what he does.
That he's not flashy.
Nothing.
You know, you don't see him putting it on the floor, crossing people over, shooting threes. He just goes to work inside. You got to respect that. He plays hard, and at the end of the game, he's got 22 and 12.
And that's true. And that's what I looked at last year when I watched him and even heard about him when he came out of high school. There isn't anything flashy to him, and you're expecting so much when you hear somebody's a 4-star, 5-star. Even though you look at the position and know the position isn't about flash and dash, you would think someone that good, well, they just default flash and dash and do the things you expect. And he just didn't, but he did do the dirty work. But this year here, man, he's cleaning it up. And I think he's made himself a first, I don't know about a lottery pick, but he certainly belongs in the NBA because last year, I was like, man, he's no NBA player. He is now, I think.
I don't know. I think he'd have to develop his game some more. I don't see him shooting jumpers. I don't see him spreading the floor, shooting threes. And I don't know how well he'll defend the pick and roll.
But he's a big dude on the inside, doing that dirty work, getting the rebounds and ready to take on some elbows if he has to.
Yeah, but guys like that nowadays get exposed on the defensive end and they don't get a lot of time because they're pretty much a turnstile.
Now, is his athleticism questionable? I think I never really focused on whether his athleticism was there. I'm not going to assume it is if I haven't really focused on it. Well, if it was that great, I'd probably know and don't have to focus on it. But I think
he's not.
Man, but I still give Zach Edey props.
I just don't see him moving laterally all that well.
So how about any more of these college basketball games? UConn dominant in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, we can probably talk about all these teams, and at the end of the day, it's going to be UConn. People saying they're not going to be challenged. Nobody's going to keep them within 10 points. But, when teams get all that type of hype and hyperbole, sometimes they let you down. UNLV back in the day.
Well, that game was sketchy, man. I don't care what anybody says about that Duke game. The second, that was sketchy, man. Christian Laettner posted up Larry Johnson. Come on, man. Well, as far as this goes, as far as the way they've been playing, Coach Hurley, he's making himself probably one of those coaches that's going to be looked at as an NBA prospect, most likely. He's going to be Brad Stevens. I think so. And with this program here, I've always been a Big East person. Freaking UConn has been pretty damn dominant in the past 25 years, winning a whole bunch of championships, and not even just a few. And I think that he has his team down to earth, and the way they play, I forgot who they played in the first freaking round, but they left in the 15 points in the freaking first half. Bro, those dudes came to play, and it was serious.
Yeah. They execute, they defend.
Yeah.
They're deep. I mean, they're a complete team, man.
And right now, I think the surprise for me is Gonzaga. Gonzaga, every year since we've kind of really put Gonzaga on the consciousness of America outside of John Stockton, there's always been some player there. There's always been a player there that you probably say, oh, man, he may be an NBA player, then they're a bust. As of late, they haven't had many busts, going into the NBA. But they weren't playing the way Gonzaga had been playing. I thought they were given high rankings in the past when they hadn't deserved it. Now, they didn't get the high ranking this year. They were inconsistent in the beginning. But now, once they play Kentucky and beat Kentucky and Lexington, they've been off to the freaking races. They only lost one game, and that was in the West Coast Conference against St. Mary's, which I mentioned before. 3 of those teams are kind of doing a little triumphant thing, the round robin, San Francisco, Gonzaga, and St. Mary's. Gonzaga right now, a hot team and probably one of those underdogs that's hot enough to cause some serious problems even now moving forward to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Gonzaga's looked good the first 2 rounds, right?
Yep.
But something's going to have to give because it looks like they're going to go up against Purdue.
Yeah, and that's true too. But again, you know what? They did go into Kentucky, and not that Kentucky has this juggernaut team. They got themselves booted out in the first round.
Yeah, but I'm saying something's gonna have to give because they both can't advance. They're both playing each other. So
yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
History's gonna hold true for one of them getting bounced when they shouldn't probably.
But I'm just looking at what Gonzaga is doing right now and what they've done in the past. There were real expectations in the past, and I think they were really pushed to the forefront to try to win a championship. They were given every benefit of the doubt in the past. And now when the pressure wasn't really on them to have that one play that's really standing out or whatever it was, they're actually standing out. And then that Kentucky game was the game, I think, that really turned it on. And they haven't really looked back since, outside of the loss to St. Mary's. St. Mary's is out of it now. They're continuing to move on. And Gonzaga is looking hot at the right time. So we're going to probably have a bunch of teams outside of UConn that we probably weren't expecting to be there. Purdue's playing well right now, so I can't say, man, they're ultimately going to lose. But we really don't know that the way people have been playing so far. Clemson, come on, who would have thought that? North Carolina State, no one really thought that too much going into this tournament.
So let me digress back to Jay Williams.
Yeah.
They were talking the tournament format, is it flawed? And they let him go first, and he said there should be 108 teams. And Shannon Sharp was opposed. The former coach, I can't remember his name, who's on the show. They were both shaking their heads. He's like, because they were saying this team could have gotten in, St. John's, and this team, and that team, and that team. And they're like, well, you can't let everybody in. Nope. And he's like, it's 108 teams. Let's let everybody in. So now we're going to have participation trophies in the NCAA tournament? Come on, man. That's idiotic to me. Makes no sense.
And on top of that, you're talking about, like, what's the incentive for the regular season? People just going out playing for the heck of it? People resting players because they know they don't have to really win a game. They're only really worried about the seeding, which is important. But some teams can just win with their starting five because they're so much better than the next team and kind of cruise to a win anyway. So,
true. Yeah, what do the conference tournaments mean?
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. Nothing means anything. Well, you won the regular season championship. Now you got to go to your conference and see if you can do better. What difference is it going to make unless it's really going to help your seeding? And we've seen this season that the seeding isn't necessarily helped because you've won. Well, what was it? North Carolina State that did win the ACC?
Right.
And then they were what, a 10 seed, a 12 seed?
11 or 12.
Yeah, exactly. You won your conference, a major conference, the ACC, and you still get a seed like that, even though you earned it winning those 5 games in the tournament.
Right. Yeah, it's not like Duke beat North Carolina and then they only had to beat one of those teams. They beat Duke and North Carolina.
Exactly. Both of these teams. And we see how Duke is playing and North Carolina's at number 1. Now the excuse is, well, North Carolina wasn't up for the game. Whose fault is that? You are who you are. The number 1 seed, the historic program, and you were beaten. But Jason Williams, I thought a little while ago he just said things for effect, and I expected more from him because he's intelligent and he'll let you know. So, I thought I wouldn't think something like that would come from him.
Yeah, but if you get a chance, or if I get a chance, I'll send you the link because Shannon Sharp, he was not having it. Nope, it was funny.
Oh, yeah. Of course not having it. It's ridiculous they even say something like that, but he gets away with it because he's a Duke guy. He's a homer, and I don't mind homers because even on occasion Charles Barkley is a homer, but then he'll kind of come back with it because Yale did beat Auburn. That's another game that I would have picked up because people don't give the credit to the Ivy League basketball as they probably should. The best teams in the Ivy League can at least make noise. I'm not looking for them to win a championship, but they can at least make noise. Once again, that Princeton team, and we'll get it right this time. Toby Bailey was on that UCLA team.
He wasn't on that team.
Toby Bailey was on that team. Wasn't he on that team?
No, he wasn't. He was a freshman the year they won the championship.
Oh, shit. See, now
him and the tall guy, Henderson. I can't remember his first name.
See, now look at that. We're talking Henderson now. I was calling him Toby Henderson. They had the whole little dog of alphabet soup going on. But anyway, that was a championship game, but a championship team. But I'm saying, getting back to, I guess, the original point without trying to damn throw names in there. But Princeton, backdoored them and beat them. They didn't win the championship that year. But hell, they couldn't win if Princeton beat them. But anyway, but the Ivy League, when they have their best teams out there, When they have their best teams, they normally could make some noise. And the top 4 teams typically in the Ivy League are going to be Princeton, Harvard. When they would, over the past couple of years, they just haven't done really well. University of Pennsylvania, and every now and then Dartmouth comes in. You know, Cornell even had a solid year this year. The only team you can guarantee to have a bad year every year is Columbia. But anyway, oh my God, that's football and everything else. But anyways, man, I mean, what do we have right now? What teams? Creighton. We talked about Creighton a little bit, just mentioning them as a Nebraska team. Creighton's kind of creeping their way around.
Right. Who did they beat the other day? I can't remember. They look decent.
Oh, Oregon. Was it Oregon?
Oh, that's what it was. Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon has a guy from my high school. Oregon has a guy from my high school, Jermaine Cousinard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he dropped 40 the first round, and he dropped 34. But he was so tired, man. That game went into double overtime, I think.
Yeah, I think I know it went to at least one overtime, but yeah, it was a high scoring game.
No, it's just regular overtime. But it was crazy because Creighton outscored them like 19-5 in overtime. It was crazy.
In overtime, bro, you gotta be tired giving up that many points in the overtime session, man.
Oregon actually blew it. Their big man Dante, he had a 1-and-1, I believe. He missed it. Or maybe he just missed one free throw, whatever it is. They left points on the board in regulation at the end of the game. So Creighton kind of got by on the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes some of those little scares to kind of, a team like that, I think they're good enough to begin with, not to win a championship, but enough to be scary. You know what I mean? If they made it to the Final Four, I wouldn't be completely shocked. In fact, how can you really be shocked if anyone made it to the Final Four in this day and age with this type of environment we have? You know what I mean? When, 16s have a real threat to win against number 1s or even 15s against number 2s, and the perennial 12-5 matchups just being what they are almost every year, like chalk, almost set up, kind of like gambling, kind of like Otani. We might get around to him a little later. But yeah, man, college basketball is certainly here. It's been a freaking damn good tournament so far. When I got back on Friday, tried to watch some game, the jet lag and all that nonsense, but still caught a couple. But man, getting a chance to sit back and see these games, I mean, it's still entertaining. I'm still trying to take away, not discrediting these guys because the best of the best aren't playing anymore. But for these people, like a St. Pete story years ago, they're happy about it. They're still setting freaking records for their own team, just doing it. They don't care. The perennial powers like Duke and North Carolina and all the huge teams out there, those are the teams that's like, okay, we'll take it, but we know that it's probably not a full power team like we had in the past.
Yeah, I mentioned, I enjoyed myself watching the games. I was a little concerned because, we've talked about it in past shows. College basketball is not what it used to be. Like when Duke played North Carolina back in the day, man, not even that long ago, I'll be fired up. But I was watching it and I really had no emotion. Like I still want North Carolina to win, but I wasn't like on pins and needles. Like I used to absolutely hate Duke.
Yeah, that's true.
I think now I just strongly dislike them.
Is it because Coach K is not there? He's the one constant that kept you hating. I actually warmed up to him a little later on because I've hated him ever since.
You know what? Now that you mention it, could be. It could be. It started with like Leitner and Hurley and Wojo.
Bro, you love to hate him.
Grayson Allen and those guys. Like they always had a player that was easy to hate.
Yeah.
But now that you mentioned Krzyzewski, he always whined to the refs.
Yep.
I'm like,
he mellowed out
you're out shooting the opponent's 22 free throws to 9. What the fuck are you whining about? So yeah, that probably has something to do with it too. I don't see him on the sidelines whining anymore.
Yeah, John Shire, man, I think he just kind of fell into the job and got the players that kind of go to Duke by default. Not to say that he doesn't have to recruit, but he doesn't have to recruit the same way as some other school, probably even in Michigan that's well known, but it's not Duke. When it comes to basketball, you would expect Michigan to do a lot more. And speaking of Michigan, by the way, Juwan Howard fired as he should have been. And Coach Day from FAU, who knew he wanted the job last year, but he's biding his time because he knew what was going to happen. And when Juwan Howard was out the door,
Right.
I mean, after saying all that good stuff about FAU, I want to be here, bro. We already know the business part. They don't got to lie about it anymore because the players aren't lying about it when they go from NL deal to NL deal, school to school in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think it was a long time coming, right? After he threw the punch, it's like you would think he'd have been gone immediately, but
yeah.
but they
Well, that
kept
legacy, the legacy at Michigan is the reason why he wasn't gone immediately. And his son was there making plays.
But I mean, if you're the coach and you're throwing punches, that's a bad look, man.
It's a terrible look. You should have been. The police should have taken you away, let alone your AD.
but he, like I said, it's a long time coming, so he's out of there. I have friends who are Michigan fans. One of them came, watched the game.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey, you guys know what time Michigan plays? We all started laughing. I guess he wanted to clown himself before we started clowning him.
Man, and for real, man, because and it's disappointing for Michigan. How can you, bro? You have Detroit in your state, man. This is the basketball capital almost as well as it is a freaking boxing capital for you to take players and bring them to Michigan, at least around that area. Whether it's almost anywhere in Michigan, the top players, if you get 5 of them or 6 of them, you should have a competitive team. How can you not keep these guys at home?
Tom Izzo.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's helpful too. But Tom Izzo, looking at what he's done now, coaching-wise, this guy still, you look at the talent in this team and the way he coaches those guys, the talent shouldn't allow them to move forward in the tournament, but his coaching is why they move forward in the tournament. But Michigan's still the brand name of the state of Michigan. I know the basketball team, if it chooses to be the 5-5, it still has that ring to it. You thought they would be the team that would bring players in and just have a coach placed and at least be consistent, and they just haven't been.
Yeah. We'll see how what's his name does.
Well, Coach Day up there, now in Michigan, coming from FAU. I mean, I don't mind coaches moving from place to place, man, but stop acting like that this is your lifer job when you know the next job and the ink's almost dry on the contract before you got there. But all these teams we talked about, man, UConn still the odds-on favorite. I don't think anything's changed, as far as that goes, regardless of other teams absolutely dominating since they've been playing in number 1 seeds and even other seeds like Gonzaga.
Yeah, I'm still rolling with Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, UConn probably wins, but I picked Tennessee in my bracket, so I'm rolling with them.
And stories, I don't know if they're verifiable stories, but there's a story that Bruce Pearl of Auburn may be looking at that Kentucky job. Wasn't it just 3 or 4 years ago when Coach Calipari was supposed to have been signing a lifetime contract with Kentucky? I'm glad they didn't make that mistake. That guy has to be one of the most overrated coaches ever. The real Calipari is the guy who had Marcus Camby at freaking UMass. All this cheating he did at Memphis, and now he had nothing but lottery picks and first rounders in Kentucky. That's how he won. Now you have regular dudes and some solid guys where you have to show your coaching, and he's not winning the way he was winning before.
But is Pearl trying to coach every school in the SEC?
Well, he got in trouble at Tennessee. I mean, what was he before that? Yeah, Tennessee. He got in trouble there.
I'm just saying that he's bouncing from
and all that nonsense.
Go to a different conference.
If you're going to go to another school in the conference, at least go to the one with the best legacy and the best possibility of bringing those players in and trying to get yourself a championship like Calipari had done if you do the right mix of almost doing it right and now with NIL. I mean, and besides that, wasn't he up by your neck of the woods in the Midwest before he came to Tennessee? He was at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, wasn't he?
Oh, man, you're going way back. He may have been.
In those teams, I remember those teams used to be in the tournament almost every year. He was doing a good job there. Now, I don't know what he was doing behind closed doors. I heard some stories, but he ended up at Tennessee. The trouble happened there. He's at Auburn. They've done well there. Now, if the job at Kentucky is there, that may be his final job. And college basketball, that's probably the pinnacle. You know what I mean? Outside of the NBA, that's the pinnacle job you'll have. Duke, Kentucky. There's like a very small handful of North Carolina, Kansas, and Kansas. Oh, God. I don't even know what to say about that team, man. They really miss Grady Dick, huh? Don't worry, Toronto does too. God.
Yeah, but it's 30 minutes on college basketball. Let's move on.
The NFL, man. What's up with this BS rule change they just came up with?
I don't think it's BS. I mean, you got all these former defensive players saying, "How are we supposed to tackle? You can't pull them down." How about you wrap up the legs?
Well, I mean, from behind. I mean, yeah, you're chasing the guy down from behind. That's what you're going to
Wrap
allow
up his legs.
185-pound defensive backs.
Well,
You get Travis
you had
Kelce. He ain't
you
going
had
down.
you had a guy counter that saying, "Well, back in the day, they were talking about tackling from behind." And he said, "Well, back in the day, you didn't see these type of tackles because they would just clothesline you and clothesline somebody from behind."
These
The hell
guys
you talking
they get
about,
ahead of
man?
themselves.
I'm just saying the hip drop. That's a recent thing, man. You don't have to. You can tackle without hip dropping. You can tackle without horse collar.
Now the horse collaring I could dig because, in fact, they made that a real rule. Wasn't it the year that T.O. had gotten his leg broken, the year the Philadelphia Eagles had gone to the Super Bowl? And it became a rule after that, I believe. It did become a rule after that. And he still played in that Super Bowl, healing from that broken leg. But, man, I'm just thinking about, bro, are you really thinking when you're running after these players, a big tight end going down the field, or now the way these wide receivers are, they're nothing but tight ends anyway, just more athletic, catching them from behind or trying to, then the last gasp, that's what you do. Your last gasp, man, trying to save a touchdown or a big play, that's what you do. You dive at this guy, and you're probably going to do that without thinking.
Okay, what's easier, diving at the legs, trying to wrap them up, hit the ankles, whatever, or grabbing around the waist and just falling down on the guy's ankles?
Man,
his feet,
you know what? I'm thinking that
pulling down.
because as athletic as these guys are, man, we've seen guys get their foot swiped and their balance is just outrageous. They do everything but fall down, continue to go. I don't know, man. I think
I'm of the opinion that if there are 10 hip drop tackles and 7 of them result in injuries,
yeah,
it's a problem.
The stats are there. Yeah, I saw the stats on it. So, yeah, it is a problem. But, man, now when they look deeper into it, what other part of the game is going to be a problem to where they have to slow it down or stop it or just eliminate it overall? Now, it's going to be a 15-yard penalty and a loss of down, no automatic first down if someone gets caught with that. But I would like to see the first time it's enforced because in practice, they're going to have to try to drill it into you during OTAs and even training camp, try to drill it into you guys who've been playing football for years. Now you're going to have to tell them, well, you can't do this part. And like any other new rule, you got to try to run it into their heads. And then this first instance of it happening, are the refs really going to call it, or is it going to be sketchy when they do it? That's another set of circumstances.
I don't know. I think the hip drop is so obvious that they can't miss it.
Yeah,
If it
it's so
happens,
obvious, but you can't get the player down unless you do it. Just let the guy go if you don't have a good grip. I mean, if you can't swipe his legs, just kind of give up on the play.
no more saying that. Keep chasing him, wrap his legs.
Well, they're gonna have to learn how to
If you
wrap
can wrap
legs
his
now.
hip, why can't you wrap his legs?
Yep, you know what? They're gonna have to practice wrapping legs now. This is probably the last thing they thought they would have to do outside of this meeting. Now this meeting is taking place. The rule is in place.
It's just the narrative these guys are trying to create. You're making it too hard to tackle. If you can grab by the hip, you can grab by the legs. I don't understand. I don't get.
Maybe the waist of a 250-pound tight end is a lot bigger than some narrow legs. I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, I get the legs are moving and the waist really
and it hurts.
But if you're that close to grab around the waist, you can just slide down and wrap around the legs.
Well, and gang tackling. You get somebody who's almost about to start, hip tackling, and then you get a gang of guys come in, and you can't see what really happened anyway. Does that get a flag? I mean, I want to see this in live motion.
Are we going to see guys jumping on guys' backs, going for rides now? Well, I can't pull them down. I'm just trying.
There'll be another form of horse collar. That's it. No piggybacking, 15 yards. It's going to be something every freaking year. The more I think about this, man, you might as well start bringing the other flags out around your waist because flag football is what the NFL is turning into. And I hate you look at the numbers and you see the injuries. I didn't know that was the percentage, but it's not my job to know that. That's why the people who are the statisticians and the rule makers are the ones who have to look at this and watch the videos and see what happened. And this is how they came to this conclusion. But man,
what's next? People say today's athletes are stronger and faster, and It's not just offensive players. Aren't defensive players stronger?
Right. Yeah, it's everybody.
Stronger, faster.
And if you're a defensive player, you're stronger and faster, but typically the offensive players are heavier than the defensive players. That's, until you get the defensive back going against a 220-pound offensive wide receiver, or like I said, the tight end, you still got a linebacker. He's about the same size. Man, it's just, I want to see when someone makes the first call on it, how does it look? You know what I mean? How does it look? Where are they going to, I know the refs have to do all this, going to classes for it, but exactly what is it? Does it have to be the classic example of this is what we saw in the video, this is what he did, or is it something that even comes close to it, and because of the speed of the game, you can't really tell right there, but you throw it because it kind of could have been that way. And you see them replay, like, oh, it probably was.
We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure, it's going to be a point of emphasis in the preseason.
Oh, absolutely.
So they'll get 4 games to practice before the season starts. So
is it 4 games?
Again, I don't think, is it 4 or 3? Oh, yeah, because they added a regular season game. But yeah, again, I think a hip drop is painfully obvious. You can't not see it unless you're not watching.
And I don't think it's a 1-second play. It's like it takes multiple moments to complete the play.
Yeah, half the time the guy gets up or he gets up hurt, limping, or stays down because his knee's jacked up or his ankle's jacked up.
Yeah.
So I mean, you see the result automatically.
I mean, what was that? What happened with Bo Jackson again? Was that an ankle tackle or was that a hip tackle? I think it was an ankle tackle. He just had such a hard force on his freaking powerful thighs that where his hip just joint.
Yeah, he kind of got caught mid stride and
and that was just ill. That was an ankle tackle. I think that was an ankle tackle. He just had such powerful doggone legs.
Yeah, his left leg just kind of got out in front of his body because it was being held back. Now
I'll kind of pivot a little bit. College football coming back up. This is spring practice, spring training, or spring football is happening, right, in the South in particular, but everywhere around the country. Well, outside of just playing going to practice and playing the actual games, Trevor Etienne, brother of Travis Etienne from the Jaguars, Trevor Etienne had gotten caught drunk driving, DUI, for Georgia. He's going into this season as the number 1 running back, transferring from the University of Florida, the cross-state rival of Georgia. I think it made news because of what it does mean to college football and the SEC, and a real power player and who could be national champs at the end of next season.
In today's age, you don't have just Uber. There's Lyft, and I'm sure there's more. Man. Call for a freaking ride, man. That makes no sense to me.
So, and of course, the executive associate athletic director said, well, it's in the courts and it's an ongoing investigation, the thing they always say. But the difference between this executive associate athletic director is he's actually a friend of mine. Yeah, Stephen Drummond, man, who used to be the vice president of football operations for the Carolina Panthers, is now the executive associate athletic director for the University of Georgia. And so, I saw his quote in the paper. I was going to kind of razz him about it, but it's serious business, man. So I'm not going to play any games with it. But yeah, man, I just feel bad because this guy has everything going for him. He's legitimately an NFL player with no question. Why would you even? I can't ask you why did you get drunk, because who's holier than thou? But man, why put yourself in that position, man? Georgia had so many issues off the field. Remember just last year, the year they won their last national championship, when someone died.
Yeah,
man, 2 people died.
At some point throughout the night, let's say maybe you don't intend to get so drunk you can't drive properly, but after a few drinks and you have no intention of leaving, you have to start thinking, all right, how am I getting home? Because I want to keep drinking, right? If you're like, I'm gonna drink water for an hour, take it easy, then you can drive yourself home. But if you're just pounding, all right, time to go home. Come on, man. You got to be smarter than that.
But these are athletes, and they don't think they're drunk. They'll keep drinking, and regardless of the buzz, they're thinking they can still get to where they want to go. Man, I remember one
Well,
time
he was
I heard
hanging
this
out
guy,
with somebody. Somebody should have been like, "Yo,
they
chill,
probably all drunk.
chill out, Trav, chill out."
You know, that's probably should be the case. But I think, if there were fans there seeing him do it, people from the University of Georgia, they might have said something like that if they saw him drinking like that. If he's
Probably
around his
drinks, but I'm
teammates or
saying
his
somebody
boys,
should have stopped him from driving.
man, it's the same thing with Ja Morant doing the ignorant stuff he's been doing. He has these yes men around him. They're not letting him know it's the wrong thing, even though it's blatantly the wrong thing in every case. It's just bad decision making. That goes without saying. But man, I don't know if you call it checks and balances with friends or people who are going to keep you out of these bad situations. And it can become, with their history at Georgia, what happened 2 years ago. I mean, man, there was a death involved, multiple deaths, because people were drunk. Man, you bring your act from Gainesville up there and we're back in the same spot. And that's just, I don't know. Well, hopefully things kind of work their way out and he gets the punishment that he's supposed to get. None of the nonsense because he's an athlete. He's going to get more of the benefit of a doubt that a non-athlete wouldn't have gotten. But anyway.
I just thought of something. We didn't mention Illinois for March Madness.
You know what?
Illinois
That's another one of those teams, man.
Shannon is a problem. That
bro
can play.
They weren't even on the radar. They were just one of those teams. Okay, you plug them in here, and they're gonna lose their first round. And you kind of move on and just run with your bracket. Man, Illinois is there. And another team that I think, how could they not have success when you look at what they've had in that damn Chicago area, the state of Illinois? But yeah, they're doing it now though.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because people watching like, hey, you guys didn't even mention Illinois. No,
When the last time they really make a move like this, when Darren Williams was there back then, when they made moves like this, when it was a hot team back then.
Oh, they were top 5 team back then though. They were real contenders. Yeah.
He was a problem. I don't know what the hell happened to his NBA career because he was hot for a while. Yeah. But anyways, yeah.
I think he got lost in Utah.
But in any event, man, Illinois, I forgot. That's one team I wasn't expecting. And if you saw him on your bracket, you probably just said one and done. These dudes are still chugging along, man. So
I watched him in the Big Ten tournament. And I think he dropped 39 or 40 on Nebraska. And then who they play after that? He dropped 30 some on Wisconsin. I was like, yo, I texted my friend, he's a problem. He's like, yeah, his lawyer's the Illinois MVP.
Man, so
because I didn't know he got into some trouble
recently.
And within the last couple of months, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like since the tournament started.
No. He was gonna be kicked off the team, but they postponed his trial or his hearing until May. They're like, wait, it's still basketball season. All right, we'll postpone until May. So that may affect his draft status, though.
Bro, it's the NBA. That's not affecting his draft status. He'll find a way to get to these NBA workouts and whatnot. These players know, these scouts know you're legit or not. They'll find a way that if you're not going to be at the NBA combine or their workout, they'll come to your campus. They'll do something. They'll figure it out, man. They'll come to your freaking courtroom, have you work out in the hotel while you wait for your trial. And they'll do something. They'll get to the bottom of it. But yeah, man. Well, actually, going back a little bit to this college football deal, guess who can't stay quiet? I thought it'd be a nice break from Coach Prime.
When I was shaking my head earlier, I was like, no, I don't want to talk about Deion. I don't want to talk about Deion.
You want to talk about Deion right now?
That's what you were going to say?
Oh, yeah, Coach Prime.
You're talking about, right?
Yeah, Coach Prime. Man, it's like he's a control freak, it sounds like. And these guys aren't going to go to NFL. And he's already telling teams which teams he doesn't want players to go to. Travis Hunter isn't going to go here unless, or my son is going to be the best prospect. Bro, I understand that vouching. But, man, we've seen enough of your son last season. Bro, 4-8. And he put up numbers against teams that, everybody else put up numbers against. And then when he was force feeding stats, we saw that part too. I just don't see him as a number 1 draft pick, but I know the race baiters out there, they'll just look at you and call you a sellout for not thinking he's a number 1 draft pick or a first round draft pick.
Hang on. Shannon has rape/sexual battery trial pending for May.
Ooh, that's pretty damn serious, man. You postpone that for a tournament?
He got an injunction to continue to be able to be eligible to play.
Bruh, come on now, man. Those allegations alone give you the creeps. Like, bruh, come on. Man, I think
Yeah,
you're
so
doing a little
I'm not rooting for them.
bit. Man.
But again, they're allegations. We'll
Yeah,
see.
they are allegations, man. But a lot of times these allegations aren't too freaking far from something realistic, man. I'm just hoping that part isn't as bad as it sounds. But damn, these dudes just can't do something stupid, man. Just steal candy from a baby and get in trouble for that. Damn,
Yeah,
there's always got to be some craziness.
but as far as Prime, it's like every week he's saying something else. Your son's not even eligible for the draft, or he didn't proclaim.
He didn't come out for it. Exactly.
Yeah,
He could have done it.
he come out in the draft. So why are you talking about him in the draft? But here's one thing I thought about. Will there come a time, and it could be in the very near future, where a player makes so much in NIL where he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna get my degree and I'm just gonna go in a career in whatever that degree is or whatever he wants to do. Fuck getting hit in the NFL, fuck getting CTE, fuck getting my knees hurt and arthritis and all. I'm gonna go get a real job.
You know what?
Or just become an entrepreneur, because let's say
he's got the money.
He made $15 million. He's got a lot of money he can invest.
Yeah, I can see that happening. But if I'm going to see it happen, it's probably going to be someone from Duke, someone from Stanford. Not that other teams don't have elite players. Vanderbilt, Texas has intelligent players. I mean, Nebraska had a damn roll All Americans that have been academic as well. But I mean, seriously, you got
you know who came at the wrong time?
Who?
Two guys probably, but I say Robert Smith.
Oh, from Ohio State.
Yeah, if he was playing now,
he was an absolute beast.
If he was playing now, yeah, and he got 15, 20 million in NIL, I believe he doesn't go to the NFL.
Bro, I followed this whole thing from when he was in high school to when he went to Ohio State. Bro left the team. He left the freaking top-ranked freaking Ohio State team with John Cooper there. He was like, yo, because he wanted to be a doctor. Right. And, and they'll put more emphasis, and he said it, they'll put more emphasis on him playing football than him studying. And that became an issue. He quit the team, but he was such a phenomenal talent. They weren't going to just let that guy sit on freaking campus in a classroom and his backup out there running like, yo, bro, we got to do it in math class better than do it in the field or science class. Yeah, Robert Smith would have absolutely murdered it. I think he would have been one of those players that did it. Where football doesn't mean exactly everything to them. Another player I think that might have done it, but it probably wouldn't have happened to him because of the school he had gone to. Marcellus Wiley at Columbia. I think he would have done something like that because this guy is obviously above board and above level when it comes to being cerebral. But yeah, man, who's the other guy?
Who's the Rhodes Scholar from Florida State? He's a top
Myron Rolle.
Yeah, there you go.
He left, man. He built a hospital.
Did he?
Where's he from? Barbados or Trinidad somewhere. He's built a hospital. In fact, the story, I don't know for sure if it's completely true. The reason why he fell so far in the draft was because when they were doing the interviews at the combine, he didn't come across as someone who would live and die for football. He had other aspirations. And when those scouts and coaches kind of vibe that you're not willing to do everything to be on that football field, they start thinking, man, this guy have other interests, man. He's not going to give us 100%. Maybe he'll milk an injury if he got a little injured, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? It still worked out for him.
Yeah, he's doing big things off the field. He didn't need the NFL.
Yeah, dude's awesome. I mean, across the board. I remember he was in high school, the number one player in the country. I think he went to Princeton High School up there in Jersey. When a Jersey kid can come down to Florida State and be expected to be the number one guy, that says a lot. Florida has enough talent where it can build from within or just cherry pick Texas and California and other hotbeds. New York area, Connecticut, those are hotbeds for football at least. But he was able to do that. He came out of Florida State and he was as advertised. He got a little bit injured later on, but the dude's legit. But he's a doctor now. And so Myron Rolle.
Yeah. So I think it's gonna happen, man. Like if Caitlin Clark, she's doing all these commercials now. She got to have a fucking armored truck of money.
Just backing up for her, yeah.
And if she's getting hated by the lesbians in the league, and she's like, you know what, I'm out of here. I don't know.
It's almost like they're talking about sabotaging her when she comes in. They're not even trying to hide it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That crap that show Swoop said about her when she was trying to clear up the other crap she said about her, and got even worse as she said it. I was like, It's like she's trying to sabotage her, or they're going to look to sabotage her when she comes in. And if that's so obvious, man, oh man, come on. If you want people to have eyes on this WNBA and she's going to be the reason why, do not sabotage it. This will be a death nail in this organization.
Right. I mean, let's say she comes in and she's doing her thing. She's rookie of the year. There's sellouts on the road that teams are selling out that never sold out before.
For real.
And then we hear, I'm retiring at the end of the season. And you ask her why. Personal reason. She's not going to say it, right?
Yeah.
What happens to the league? No more sellouts, man.
No more sellouts. Just a bunch of players who sold out because they rather let their jealousy and emotions. Remember, women are emotional. That's not something disparaging. That's just a reality. And they will be the ones to do all this nonsense more so than men. How about dirty fouls that she may get once she gets to the WNBA? Constantly, night in, night out. The nastiness. I don't know what goes on in the locker room. We've heard only stories of people who were not part of the culture, and how they, people who were actually married and had kids were talking about how they were treated in the locker room. They were kind of ostracized. Crazy environment.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope it doesn't come to that.
I hope not, man, because this is the saving grace that it took all this time. This is the saving grace that you all been looking for. But according to some idiots out there with their ridiculous political agendas and otherwise, like that USA Today article that talked about that someone else should be the star or face of the WNBA outside of her. Absolutely. How did that even make the print? How did that even get printed? How is it even out there in the public eye?
Like, why is race even an issue?
Why is it even an issue?
It's not even be an issue. They're playing basketball.
That's it.
So what? She's white. Why does that matter? It should not.
It shouldn't matter. But you hear these people talk about, well, they're more than happy to say, well, 70% of the NBA, over 70% of the NBA is black because, and they'll let you know every time with pride why they believe that's the case. And when you look at the numbers and look at the statistics and see how they've done it, well, you probably can say yes or no. But when it comes to something else that's not so flattering, like how many black folks are on Wall Street, well, now you get people thinking that you think we're dumb, that kind of BS. I mean, seriously. I mean, this is what's been going on for so long, and it's not going to stop. Now, I mean, the white player, I guess if you call her that, she's the minority in this league, and she's being treated like absolute crap before she's gotten there.
Exactly. She's not even there yet. None of them know her really personally.
No, they don't want to know her. They already have their own agenda. And the nonsense that I keep going back to show Spooks and the nonsense she was saying, from the idiocy of black folks can't be racist, which is just most, oh God, come on.
Especially when it comes to sports, though.
Huh?
Especially when it comes to sports, though.
Oh, whoever can freaking win. Jokic is in the freaking NBA because he helps Denver win. You look at Jokic or you look at Luka, those guys are in the NBA because they can help guys win. If they were black, they still helping teams win. That's it. So if a white player is going to be in the NBA, and the reason why you're going to have more success than you would have had without them, is because they're good enough to be in the NBA. Outside of that, the race isn't a freaking issue. So come on, man. It shouldn't be an issue because they make it an issue. Organically, it should not be.
Yeah, there's one good thing. Maybe, the media's trying to push a false narrative, like divide her and Angel Reese. But Angel Reese is on the record like, that's my girl.
She's taking a high road.
So, but let's say Angel Reese goes to the WNBA. Angel Reese might have her back, and maybe other girls that go to the WNBA, they might also have her back. So it might be the young faction versus the OG faction.
You know what? If it turns out that way, it's going to glare. It's going to show.
If it works out that way, at least she's not by herself.
Yeah, and that's true, man. But I just hate that it's even an issue going into the WNBA. Like anyone who looks to have a dream to get into the WNBA, NBA, or anything that you really wanted to and put your whole life into, you want it to be as glorious as possible. You don't want to have these other things that have nothing to do with basketball being a problem in the sport of basketball with this case.
Yeah, you saying that reminds me of Bird when Rodman said what he said, and then Isaiah basically doubled down on it. They had to have a press conference, and Bird was like, look, man, I just want to play basketball, whatever. I don't know what they said. Apologize, don't apologize. Who cares? I'm just go shoot the ball. And that's all he wanted to do.
That's it, man. Keeps it simple. I've been seeing Bird on commercials lately, man. What's going on, man? He's been laying low for all these years. Now I'm starting to see him on commercials more and more. Yo, I mean, hey,
I haven't noticed.
Let these old school dudes start seeing Bird and knowing how that he really exists. These what?
You know what I saw today? A video of Charles Barkley golfing. He doesn't have the hitch anymore. He actually has a normal swing. Yeah.
We've been playing forever and losing money forever.
He went to somebody and fixed his swing, no hitch. Like they actually made a video like, look, no hitch.
Yo, that's something I'm actually gonna start doing, man. I mean, I've been on the golf course before, never played. Believe it or not, the first time I ever hit a putt in golf, it dropped a 30-footer, and then I end up missing like freaking 5 inches away, like later on. Like, bro, what's going on here? I thought, because years I thought I followed golf, but never really cared about golf for decades. And I went to a driving range one time, man, in Alabama. And when a late friend of mine, we went out there, man, and the next day couldn't hardly freaking move. I was like, what the hell's going on? Your back hurts, everything. Golf? Bro, this is just a driving range here. But yeah, that thing puts that pressure on you, man. I never really thought I guess like a baseball player swinging the bat all the time. So yeah, so I guess we could probably end on this note, or do we get a chance to talk a little bit about Ohtani and the gambling? Or did we say enough about it anyway?
I don't really know what to say. There's conflicting reports.
Yeah, he's saying he didn't do anything. The translator, supposedly had made the bets. I don't know, man. And now you have Pete Rose and Ohtani.
I don't want to crucify a guy without.
That's the last dude I want to crucify anyway, man. Ohtani is so good for baseball right now. I mean, period. So, man,
yeah, but with that being said, he shouldn't be protected just because of that either.
And that's true. He shouldn't be protected. But right now, without enough information out there to make any real decision or even to kind of make a real argument about it, I mean, until then, at least unless you have something that's a little bit more tangible, I guess you got to kind of wait and see. I know it's kind of like the Josh Giddey deal when people wanted to jump on it right away. And look at that. Everything was much ado about nothing.
Yeah, but I guess it was his checking account the money came from.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that sucks. We'll hear the end of that. We'll get to that story again. But see the way things have been going between now and Thursday when we have our next show, it seems like the sports cycle is going to continue. I mean, the NFL is going to continue doing what it's doing.
Yo, there's basketball Thursday.
Oh, yeah, there's basketball.
Do it Wednesday?
Yeah. What, this Thursday basketball?
NCAA picks up. Again.
It's AA basketball. Yeah, but is it going to be in a day or night?
No, it'll be at night, but
yeah, so that means we're going to be on after or before it comes on. But it'll be something to highlight, I guess, going into it. Hey, this is not a bad tournament so far. I'm not gonna say bad as I thought, because talent for talent, you probably look out there, you see all the mid-range jumpers missing, and you see some dunks getting missed.
Oh my gosh. There was one game on Thursday. It was 20-19 at halftime.
20-19 at halftime.
It was brutal.
That's like
I can't remember it because I try to forget it so quickly. We're at the bar, you got the 4 TVs, and we're like, it was turnovers, bricks, turnover, brick, turnover, one pass. It was like 15 feet over the dude's head and went to the back court. We're like, how does these guys make the turn?
This is what we got, man.
It was ugly, man.
Oh, God, man. You got dudes transferring from 1AA ball or Division II ball and becoming stars on 1A teams. I mean, seriously, other players coming from, I would think it was Wyoming, a player coming from Wyoming to go to another top team. Man, this is just.
Luckily, we've had upsets.
Upsets and excellent games.
Yeah, there's been exciting moments, exciting games, close games. So, yeah, it's been an entertaining tournament.
Yeah, I've already seen a few shining moment clips that will be put into the moment when they finally put it together, man, between the criers and the people celebrating. I've seen a couple of those clips already, and it started early. Come on. But, yep, I guess that'll be it for right now, unless you want to jump into the NBA just a little bit, because what's really been going on.
Yeah, we can talk about it. The Nuggets have a half-game lead in the West.
Yeah.
T-Wolves, they're a little bit maybe dropping somewhat. They're missing Cat.
I'm about to say missing Cat. Yeah,
Lakers, I think, won 3 in a row, but
Lakers.
they're in the play-in. They're not getting up to 6. I mean, they got to jump 3 teams to get to 6 anyway.
Yeah.
And in the East, I think it's
finally starting to play a little better.
Boston or bust.
Yeah,
Kendrick Perkins said he'll take Jalen
Brunson
over Shea Gilgeous.
That's tough, bro. I'll take my boy. Hey, I got my guy Brunson, man. I'm glad with what we had. I wasn't necessarily glad at the beginning.
They got OKC half game behind the Nuggets in the West.
Yeah, I know. And he's legit. I mean, there's no question about it. Man.
Plus, he's younger.
I'll take what I got. I'll take what I have because this is like we haven't had a player that's a spree. Come on, man. I mean, Carmelo, but spree,
I saw a clip too. Joakim Noah was on a podcast and they asked him about the KG incident, and he's like, "People got it all wrong, but let me explain to you what happened." He's like, "I had KG posters on my wall. Like he was like my idol, man." And it's the end of the game. The Celtics are killing us. We're down like 26. There's under a minute left. And so I approach him, but people act like it was the first quarter. Like I go in there and he said when I reached out to him, he says I saw the look on his face, and he cursed him out. He's like, "Oh shit." He knew he messed up. But he didn't know KG had that competitive fire like that.
Yeah.
He figured, man, this game's over. Let me holler at him. I'm happy to be in the league. This is my idol. KG wasn't having none of it.
Bro.
But Joakim said, I'm glad it happened because that let me know I gotta have that same type of attitude, same type of fire. But every time we play Boston, I'm going at him. And it was just so hilarious because Joakim was like, oh, shit. What did I get myself into?
It's not like today when players, everybody like each other, man. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Man, but I'll tell you what, Joakim, man, if it weren't for the injuries, man, he'd have still been doing his thing for a minute. So damn injuries.
You know, for the limited skills he had, they were also talking about his free throw, the sideways spin. He said people used to clown him, but he's like, that's why I busted out the pistols. When I hit it, I was like, yeah, I hit that one. I know what you're gonna say now. Man, it was funny. I had never seen him in that type of setting. Joakim Noah is a funny dude, man.
Oh, bro. I remember he was at Florida, man, when he first came in. He didn't play well, and I remember the crowd used to get on him. He said, bro, he had to go back to New York. He had to go back to the courts on the street to get his damn vibe back. He came down. They ended up winning 2 in a freaking row with the Gators.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a team. He was playing volleyball against these guys. He was like Wemby hitting these people with freaking blocks. Yeah, man, but I've always liked Jokic. I mean, Joakim was just a cool dude. And remember, he was the executive producer for that Lenny Cook show that had come on. Yeah, he was the executive producer. He's one of the few dudes that kept up with Lenny all these years when things was the work. The only dude, man.
Yeah, Joakim back. I mean, I love Derrick Rose too as a Bulls fan. Hockey now, but Joakim was my favorite player back then.
Derrick Rose never came across as a problem child. You know what I mean? Considering you hear his backstory about things that happened in his life, you think that he would come in with this bad attitude. You know, like AI had that stuff happen in his life. You kind of saw it in the way he played. He had that attitude, even though I love freaking AI, he just had that attitude. Derrick Rose, you know, when he came to the Knicks later in his career, he stepped out a little bit because he had some family issues, and they tried to make a big deal out of that, man. But aside from that, man, he was no cancerous player.
I don't think he's ever been in trouble, not a malcontent, nothing.
Nope, exactly. Just bad freaking luck with that knee. That dude's a Hall of Famer without that freaking knee injury. Yep. Easy.
Yeah, he was a badass.
We was robbed. We was robbed with that dude. But anyway, let's get this thing out of here. We'll be back on Thursday. The Sports Bag Bros podcast will be joining you once again then, both in the U.S. But until then, until next time,